Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Monday study session of the Pierce County Council. It is Monday, July 1st, 2024. The time is 11:02 a.m. All members are present except for Councilmember Morell,
And
who is
Denson.
excused, and Councilmember Denson, who is excused. Board item number 2, review of the July 2nd, 2024 council meeting agenda. Ms. Long.
Thank you, and good morning. This is your amended meeting agenda for tomorrow afternoon's meeting. We'll start with your consent agenda under B, introduction and scheduling. You have 5 ordinances for introduction and scheduling. The first is O 2024-531. This is approving the transfer of ultimate control to Consolidated Communications. This is the YCOM franchise. As we mentioned in rules, there's a probability that there will be a modification to the title, and we'll know that before study session tomorrow, so we can bring that to you. You'll be setting the final on this for August 6th and referring this to EIDC. Next is O 2024-532. This is related to the operation and expansion of the Pierce County Water Utility, amending Chapter 710 of the code entitled Pierce County Water Utility, and 448, which is county funds, to establish a water utility enterprise fund. This is for referral to EIDC, and you'll be setting the final on this for August 6th also. The next 3 are collective bargaining agreements. They are O 2024-533, 34, and 35. The first is with Council 2, Washington State Council of County and City Employees. This is the juvenile court unit. You'll be setting all of these for final on July 16th. And again, these are not going to committee, hence the review in the study session prior to the final. The next is a collective bargaining agreement reached with Council 2, Washington State Council of County and City Employees. This is the Pierce County Corrections and Detention Center non-uniformed group. And the third is a collective bargaining agreement reached with Council 2, Washington State Council of County and City Employees. This is the general unit. You have 1 grant for approval. Mr. Wickby will explain that. Excuse me, there are 2 grants. 1 has been added. So Mr. Wilkie will explain those, and then we'll remove the pending review as appropriate. And then you'll see under F a motion. This is authorizing the executive to execute an MOU. This is relating to the case of Pierce County versus DSHS. And this would result in dismissal without prejudice of that action. There's more information that will be contained in your packets. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those if needed. Under Section 7, you have 1 proclamation, and that is proclaiming July 2024 as Park and Recreation Month in Pierce County. And that was requested by Councilmember Krueger. Under Section 8, resolutions, you have 1 item here, and this is R 2024-172S, continued from last week's council meeting. This is approving the Homeless Housing Program 2024-25 funding recommendations of the Human Services Department and the Homeless Document Recording Fee Advisory Group. This received a due pass as substituted at Human Services on June 18th. There is 1 amendment to review on that, and those are your agenda items for tomorrow's regular council meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Long. I want to thank the council for considering the new process of considering collective bargaining agreements. This is the first time we're really moving through this new process with these 3 collective bargaining agreements. It is going to shave off at least a week of time, legislative approval time, to do it this way. We're going to still brief them in study session, and the council has had time with labor relations in closed session on them numerous times. But again, by not having to assign the bills to rules and move through that process for what is an up or down vote for a collective bargaining agreement, it does shave off at least a week, if not 2 weeks, to get collective bargaining agreements ratified and what our employees are owed. So thank you to the council for considering and working through this new process. And as always, if we need to change our process, we will, but let's see how it goes. And thank you. Any questions or comments about the agenda for tomorrow's meeting before we review an amendment to Resolution 172S? I don't see any. Ms. Merrick, to brief the council on Resolution 172S, please.
Certainly, Chair Mello. Good morning, council members. For the record, Lee Beth Merrick, council staff. There is one amendment being proposed for you for tomorrow, being offered by Chair Mello. The amendment would do a number of things. First, it modifies the title to account for the additional direction that's provided in the new sections that are added. You'll see on Section 2, it directs the Economic Development Department in consultation with the Human Services Department and the Pierce County Community Development Corporation to explore options for providing no interest in short-term loans to awardees of the funding in order to alleviate any immediate financial hardships awardees may face due to the payment delays associated with the protracted contracting process. The next new section is Section 3. This directs the executive to include in their 24-25 supplemental budget proposal funding. There's 3 different fund sources that are listed. So funding from the Housing and Homelessness Fund, funding for or the Homeless Document Recording Fee Fund, or the Housing and Related Services Fund, specifically for highly ranked and scored outreach and emergency shelter projects that were not recommended for funding under the resolution. Next is it adds Section 4, which makes the resolution retroactive to July 1st, 2024. And lastly, it amends a math error that the department had in the proposal. So you'll see for Homeward Bound, they had a recommended award of $263,780, and then Recovery Cafe Ording was $71,000. They were saying that total was $282,024. That obviously doesn't add up. So we clarified with the department where the math error was rooted from, and they let us know that they had the wrong recommended award for Homeward Bound. That should have been $211,024, and that's how you get that 282 subtotal. That's the amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Merrick. Are there questions about Amendment 1 to this resolution? I don't see any questions. Thank you, Ms. Merrick. That's everything for tomorrow's regular meeting. Well, not really. We have grant authorization awards to brief before we agree to place these on tomorrow's consent agenda. Mr. Boki, let's do the Washington Military Department grant request first.
Thank you, Chair Mello, Paul Boki, council staff. The first one is an extreme weather response grant. It is through the Washington Military Department. This is a formula grant, and the response grants are a non-competitive grant to reimburse eligible political jurisdictions for costs incurred during extreme weather events, including sheltering activities during periods of extreme heat, cold, and poor air quality from wildfire smoke. Response funds are meant to cover expenses such as operating temporary shelters, acquiring necessary equipment and supplies, providing transportation services for vulnerable populations, and staffing costs. And so these do run through 24, 25 through the fiscal years, and the grant amount, the availability, I believe statewide from what I'm reading, is $350,000. But Miss Amy Gillespie from our emergency management department is on the line to answer your questions.
Thank you. Ms. Gillespie, anything to add on behalf of the department?
No, this is an excellent opportunity for us to recover costs when it comes to our extreme weather activations. So this opportunity is available to us and we'd like to have approval to get that.
Thank you. Ms. Gillespie, can you remind us, what is the trigger for an extreme weather event? Does a declaration of emergency need to be declared at the county level or the state level, or what's the trigger for what kind of event to make the operations for said event reimbursable?
So first of all, it does not require an emergency proclamation. We do have to have a plan that outlines our extreme weather response thresholds, which we do have, which is based on the National Weather Service advisories based on cold or hot weather. And so it would have us activate our emergency operation center, but does not require us to have an emergency proclamation to be eligible for these grant funds.
Thank you. Other questions by other members? Councilmember Kitchen.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Gillespie, I guess one of the questions I had written down to ask was about smoke, but staff mentioned that was covered. But then when you were listing things that would implement, you didn't mention smoke. So is there a air quality metric that we have to hit?
Yeah, so that's a part of the grant of the hazards that are available. So under extreme weather, it does include an air quality incident, and there are thresholds within how the Clean Air Agency determines what levels of air quality have to be met for us to be eligible for that.
Okay, and then just because of the geography of our county, sometimes we hit some of these extreme temperatures, both hot and cold, and also air quality differently. So how is that accounted for as far as it, since our county is large and includes a volcano and all that?
Yes, so it doesn't have to be the entire county. It could be a very isolated area that meets their thresholds and that we're taking emergency action to support that community.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Other questions on this grant? Well, thank you, Deputy Director. This grant request authorization will be on tomorrow's consent agenda. Mr. Pokey, we have another grant request with the U.S. Department of Justice.
Thank you, Chair Mello. This is a comprehensive opioid stimulant and substance use site-based program. This is a competitive grant. It's national, it's federal. The grant amount request is $1.6 million over 36 months. In looking at the grant, they break it up into 4 groupings. We are in the urban grouping. So to give you some idea, they're predicting in their paperwork, they indicated they're predicting that there'd be 24 awardees nationwide in this category, and urban areas are defined as anything over $500,000. So Pierce County is requesting funding to support operating expenses for a mobile treatment program to bring needed services to areas of Pierce County where there are identified unmet needs for services, and establishing a fixed site program would be too time or cost prohibitive. And I'll let Ms. Trish Crocker answer any more of your questions and give you more details to this.
Thank you. Ms. Crocker, mobile treatment has been a high priority for this council. So this is really good to see. We're eager to hear more from you about what we're preparing to do here. So good morning.
Morning, and Margot Bernison, Behavioral Health Manager, is also attending. I don't know that she's been made a panelist. She may be able to answer questions that I cannot. But
we're bumping her now, and she just has to accept the panelist link. Thank you, Ms. Crocker. Please proceed.
And so this is to provide mobile treatment, possibly the medication assisted treatment. We're looking into the viability of that. Margot can speak a little bit more to that part. But we're just trying to bring these services, these needed services, out to areas that are farther than the urban core. While it is an urban request, we are allowed to go to the more remote areas, and that's actually an emphasis in our application is for the areas that are farther from the from Tacoma and the other fixed site programs.
Thank you. Margot, welcome. We eager to hear more from you about what the plan is.
Yes, thank you, Council. And our plan is we've been talking to providers, we've been talking to individuals with lived experience and the other committees that we have and responding to the opioid epidemic that we have in Pierce County. And the number one ask has been for transportation. That being said, I think our hope is that doing mobile medical units would allow us to go to where individuals are versus trying to increase bringing individuals into where services are. However, it's not something that doing a brick and mortar is always going to work. And so we need to have this ability to be a little bit more mobile. And this is just another way for us to bring some funding in to support that plan and just try to address that crisis.
Thank you. We'll look for questions or comments by council members. We'll begin with Councilmember Hitchen.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for doing this. I'm thrilled, excited. Please let me know if there's ways I can support, or if a letter from the council would be supportive, or the opioid task force. We definitely need this. We've heard this loud and clear, so I'm excited to see this coming forward. Will this grant allow or support actually buying the said mobile units, or is it the operations?
Yeah, this will be specifically for the operations. And what it'll do is allow us to utilize the opioid settlement funds potentially to purchase the units and just help us make those dollars go a little bit further.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Again, thank you to the department for identifying this grant opportunity and pursuing this really high priority need. Thank you for pursuing it. This will appear on tomorrow's consent agenda for approval. Thank you, Mr. Boki. That's everything for tomorrow's council meeting agenda. So we're going to move on to item number 3, which is review of committee agendas for the week. Ms. Long.
Thank you. So this afternoon's CDEC meeting has been canceled. So we'll look to tomorrow beginning at 9:30. You have a Health and Human Services Committee meeting, and there are 2 presentations on that agenda. The first is Community Development Corporation expansion update. That will be with Human Services and Community Development Corporation board members. And the other is a Healthcare Authority state updates, the 1115 waiver updates overview and case management and reentry opportunities. And that will be with the Healthcare Authority. At noon is your regular Tuesday study session. Just the usual agenda items for tomorrow. And at 3 p.m. is your regular council meeting. The office will be closed on Thursday, July 4th to celebrate the holiday. And those are the meetings for the remainder of this week.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Are there questions about the meeting agendas for the remainder of the week? Councilmember Hitchen.
Not a question, but just a plug. The Medicaid transformation project, the work that's happening in Health and Human Services is kind of like the part 3 of this learning we've been doing on behavioral health services in our county. So for those that have been following along, it's kind of getting to how we work with the state agencies that provide these services in our county, especially looking at those that touch our juvenile justice and our justice system. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Not seeing any other hands for committee agendas for the week. We're at item number 4, discussion of administrative items. I call on our Chief of Staff, Julie Murray.
Good morning, Julie Murray, Chief of Staff. I have nothing to note today.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Is there any other business by members? I'll just note at the end of the study session packet, as always, is the expanded schedule and the legislative tracker. Both are there for council's review. If there's any questions about anything, as always, please get with the staff person who's assigned to the item. Ms. Murray or Ms. Long, any other business for council?
Not today, thank you.
With no other business before the Pierce County Council in Monday's study session, we are adjourned.